Welcome back to the Yowa Shinobi. This is the time for us to discuss the story of all characters from Naruto to Boruto era. In this video, we're gonna tell you about Shin Susenju, the wood element booth of Buddha's thousand palms. But before entering the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, so you will always update the latest videos from us, which has a rare and detailed story that can't be found on any other channel. And this is the Yowa Shinobi. Shin Susenju, are also known as the wood elemental stance of thousand palms of the Buddha, is one of the greatest moves in history of Shinobi. Shin Susenju is a giant statue that comes from the wood element that has figure of Buddhist monk in the middle and thousands arms around its body. This technique is known for its prowess throughout history, not only because its strength and size can exceed the Biju, but also because only few people have been able to use it for hundreds or even thousands of years. Not only that, this technique is very well known because in addition to being able to be used to attack, it can also be an absolute defense technique and very difficult to penetrate. This technique first appeared thousands of years ago when Hashirama had two sons to carry on his ninja line. One of Hashirama's son, Ashura, was chosen to continue the ninja line. This was agreed by all the villagers, and they celebrated the elections of Ashura as the new village head and successor. But unfortunately, it turned out that his older brother Indra didn't like Hashirama's decision to choose Ashura. He considers that Ashura doesn't have the capacity and quality as good leader. Unlike himself, who does have leadership spirit, Indra then came to the village with very extraordinary anger. At first, Indra only protested about his father's decisions to choose Ashura, but feeling that the answer of his father didn't satisfy him, Indra awakened the perfect Susanoo using the Magiku Sharingan he had recently obtained. Meanwhile, Ashura, who didn't want to hurt the fight with his brother, tried to stop him. But Indra, whose emotions were running high, didn't want to listen anymore. He neither Ashura's nor his father's scream and began to launch his attack. Reluctantly, Ashura tried to stop the attack that were launched by Indra, but the huge difference in strength caused Ashura to fall to the ground with a bang. Indra then again prepared to attack, this time with much greater force than before. In this state of urgency, Ashura managed to awaken the Rikudo power given to him by his father and stop the attack. Then the villagers who want to help Ashura combined the chakra they had and channeled it to Ashura. With a very large chakra flow and coming from various sources, Ashura got very extraordinary flow power and then succeeded in awakening Shin Susenju. The wooden Shin Susenju statue that Ashura raised was enormous, almost the same size as the surrounding mountains and slightly larger than Indra's perfect Susanoo. Ashura stood in the center of the statue and controlled it. The blows from the hands of Shin Susenju hit Susanoo repeatedly, making Indra unable to fight it at all. Even attacks from the hands of Shin Susenju are able to debate Susanoo defense, which has been called an impenetrable absolute defense. After destroying the Susanoo, the Shin Susenju technique is then released. Unfortunately, after this, Ashura was no longer able to awaken this technique. He then told his experience using Shin Susenju to his descendants from generations to generations, with the hope that someday there will be descendants who can revive this technique and use it for good things. Tens or even hundreds of years after Ashura's death, no one of his descendants were able to awaken the Shin Susenju technique. Even after the Ashura lineage was divided into two clans, namely the Hashirama clan and the Senju clan, people began to forget to try to master the Shin Susenju technique. Until one generation, Butsama Senju's sons, who was the head of the clan, at that time managed to master an aesthetic technique called Sage Boat on his journey on the Turtle Island. By using the Sage Boat, Hashirama was able to gather natural energy and use it. It's different from the Sage Boat that get from the frogs on Bone Byabaku or snakes in Ryuchi Cave. The Sage Boat that Hashirama studied was the purest natural energy gathering technique, so Hashirama was able to absorb large amounts of energy in a very short time. Hashirama not only got knowledge of Sage Boat, but he also managed to combine the earth and water elements that he had into new elemental forms, namely the wood element. He is able to take out the dense forest in an instant, perform Fujitsu, and scatter the forest with poison powder using his wood element. Knowing Hashirama's potential and immense power, his father Butsuma Senju told about the legends of the power of Shin Susenju that their ancestor Asura Otsutsuki had awakened. However, knowing his father's ambitions to kill all his opponents and only prioritize the greatness of the Senju clan, Hashirama decided not to try to learn or try to take out the Shin Susenju technique, even though he was very sure he could do it. This is because Hashirama has different visions from his father. He wants to create a new world where shinobi don't have to fight each other. When Hashirama's father died, he was appointed head of Senju clan due to his very high leadership ability and spirit. As clan leader, Hashirama led the fight in the place of his father. When he finally faced the mortal enemy of Senju clan, the Uchiha clan, Hashirama had to face his best friend when he was a child, Madara. To stop the fight, Hashirama tried to take out the Shin Susenju using his wood element. But even though Hashirama was very confident of his chakra capacity and his ability to use Shin Susenju, he was very surprised when he didn't manage to catch the move. But even though he failed to bring out the Shin Susenju, Hashirama managed to unite the Senju and Uchiha clans and then build a village they called Konohagakure. However, just few years since Konoha was built and Hashirama became Hokage, Madara came to attack Hashirama in Konoha. He felt that Hashirama was too naive, and Madara, who was researching the Uchiha inscriptions, said that their clan was born to be world leader. Hashirama, who heard this, tried to calm Madara down, but apparently his grand had made up his mind and was ready to attack him. Madara has even controlled the Nine Tails using his Sharingan to defeat Hashirama. Seeing Madara's seriousness to fight him, Hashirama was forced to fight him. They fought very fiercely until one point Madara coated with Kyuubi, which he controlled using his Susanoo, making the Nine Tails monster covered his Susanoo armor with two large chakra swords in his hands. Knowing this great threat, Hashirama activated his Sage mode and then gathered all his strength. He took a deep breath and in one beat took out all the chakra he had. Hashirama managed to expel Shin Susenju. The size of the Shin Susenju that was successfully activated by Hashirama was 3 times the size of the Kyuubi, with the Buddha statue as the center of thousands of hands behind it. Not only that, above the head of the Buddha statue, Hashirama also raised human monsters and wooden dragons. By using Shin Susenju, he managed to damage the Susanoo armor that covers the Kyuubi's body. Not only that, when the Kyuubi and Madara began to be careless, Hashirama released the Shin Susenju core body from his thousands of hands and caught the Kyuubi easily in the hands of Buddha statue. After he managed to grasp the Kyuubi, Hashirama combined his wood element with his Sage mode to release the Kyuubi from the influence of the Sharingan. After that, he finished his fight with Madara and won it, thanks to the Shin Susenju technique. Hashirama now realized that the combinations of his wood element and Sage mode gives him enormous power, so he finally succeeded in awakening the Shin Susenju. This technique was then used again by Hashirama when he gathered the tail beasts and then distributed them to village as sign of friendship between countries. Due to this, Hashirama's wood techniques became legendary in all directions, and he was called the god of shinobi because of his extraordinary abilities. In fact, when Hashirama tried to teach wood elemental techniques or how to activate Shin Susenju to various shinobi, no one was able to do so. In fact, no one of them can or have the element of wood. Hashirama's Shin Susenju technique even inspired many people to learn the combinations of the two elements called Keikai Genkai, and the Shin Susenju technique was adopted by the monks in the Fire Temple. They call the technique by the name Raigo Senju Satsu, which means thousands of hands killing. This technique makes the user chakra from Buddha statue with the thousands hands like Shin Susenju. The way of attack is almost similar to the Shin Susenju technique. One of the most famous users is Chiriku. After decades have passed, no one can master the wood element like Hashirama, even though they have tried various ways to do it, for the sake of mastering the Shin Susenju technique. Then the third Hokage student, who is scientist, tries to modify Hashirama's remaining cells and transplant them to the human body. But because his experiments were inhuman, the third Hokage forcibly stopped his experiment. But Orochimaru kept doing his experiments secretly and finally succeeded in transplanting Hashirama's cells into a child after sacrificing dozens of lives. The child is named Yamato. With Hashirama's cells successfully implanted in him, Yamato is able to master the wood element like Hashirama's. But apparently Yamato couldn't activate Shin Susenju because he didn't have much chakra as Hashirama. Besides Yamato, the person who was successfully grafted with Hashirama's cells was Danzo Shimamura. But again, he has also couldn't awaken the Shin Susenju. Not even to awaken the Shin Susenju, Danzo can't even control Hashirama's cell inside him. Until finally Danzo died because his body cells were eaten by Hashirama's cells that were connected to his body in his fight against Sasuke. After the death of Danzo and Yamato was unable to resurrect the Shin Susenju, this tactic slowly began to be forgotten by everyone, especially with the death of Orochimaru, and village officials who were more focused on developing village and also improving cooperation between countries, especially when the Akatsuki declared that there would be fourth great ninja war to take the Kyuubi and Hachibi and awaken the Genjutsu Mugen Tsukuyomi. When people had forgotten this extraordinary Shin Susenju technique, suddenly in the middle of the Fourth World War, Tobi, who is Waizatsu, issued a Shin Susenju. All the alien troops were surprised by the appearance of the wooden Buddha statue. Even though the size is not as big as Hashirama Senju's, the alien troops who are fighting against the Kyuubi are unable to advance to the front line because they are blocked by this Shin Susenju statue. When they try to pass the statue, the wooden hands will attack them at high speed. Not only that, Tobi's Shin Susenju is able to issue 5 kinds of elements from the head of Buddha statue in the middle of Shin Susenju. The Kage who were with the alien troops at the time were unable to penetrate the Shin Susenju defense. Even some of their attack didn't work against the giant wooden statue, sending Kage-class shinobi flying far away. The third Hokage who was there wondered about the figure behind Tobi, who was able to use the wood element and awaken this legendary technique. In his entire life, Hiruzen had never met anyone or shinobi who was able to use the wood element like Hashirama. Never even met a shinobi who could use the wood element. Tobi, who was controlling the Shin Susenju, just laughed in satisfaction and enjoyed the view from the top of the wooden statue. He thought that this change was the most beautiful sign in his entire life, where no shinobi could stop him. Even Hiruzen, who is called the Professor, can only stop a small attack from Shin Susenju. But Tobi's Shin Susenju defense was successfully penetrated by Karin, Orochimaru, and Suigatsu. But they worked together to get past the wooden statue to go save Sasuke, who is experiencing a critical period. Karin released her Uzumaki chain chakra to destroy dozens of Shin Susenju wooden hands at once. Meanwhile, Orochimaru and Suigatsu attacked Tobi and stopped his movement. Unfortunately, because the three of them were in a hurry and immediately left Tobi, the Shin Susenju statue is resurrected by Tobi after a while. He acknowledged the ability of Orochimaru's team because they were the only ones who managed to break through the Shin Susenju defenses throughout the history of shinobi. Tobi then added additional strength to the Shin Susenju, making the half Buddha statue have legs and able to move more freely. Both the hands and feet of the Shin Susenju are used to attack the shinobi alliance troops, which are getting weaker and weaker because they're running out of chakra. But suddenly, when Tobi was still engrossed in controlling the Shin Susenju, the statue stopped and then collapsed very fast to the sudden large earthquake. It turns out that this is because the Mugen Tsukuyomi is starting to activate, where the moon has turned red and has formed a rainy Sharingan pattern. Knowing this, Tobi said that he didn't need Shin Susenju to repel the alien strip because his plan with Madara had worked. Tobi then released himself from the body of the persons he was controlling, and that person was one other than Yamato. He was kidnapped while on guard missions for Naruto in Kumogakure. Kabuto then gave it to Obito. But Obito told Tobi to control it because the wood element is very useful for controlling the Biju. In addition, there is possibility that could use Yamato to cast Hashirama's legendary signature move, Shin Susenju. Obito's prediction was correct by controlling Yamato while draining the chakra he got from the white statue that drained chakra to him. He managed to awaken Shin Susenju. When Yamato got out of Tobi's control and started to wake up, he became confused and panicked about the situations. But unfortunately, not long after that, he was hit by Genjutsu from Mugen Tsukuyomi. After this incident, it is certain that no one else is able to cast or process the wood element like Hashirama, since the wood element is the basis for unleashing the Shin Susenju technique. Now, no one inherited or mastered this technique. Researchers and historians have agreed not to attempt to revive this deadly technique again. Apart from the fact that they don't need this kind of technique in the modern era, the new generations of shinobi also don't seem to want to master technique like Shin Susenju. During Naruto's leadership as Hokage dozens years after the Fourth Great Ninja War ended, there is Jonin who is rumored to have to master the wood element, the shinobi named Mogi Matsuri. This is because Mogi masters the element of earth and water very well, whereas it's known that these two elements are source for creating the wood element. Due to the threat from the Otsutsuki clan who suddenly invaded the shinobi world, the top brass of the big countries held a meeting again. They started talking about Mogi, who has the potential to activate the power of Shin Susenju and could be options to protect the shinobi world in the Otsutsuki attack again. But there are still many people who doubt this and unproven ability of Mogi to use wood element. In addition, as we know that the use of Shin Susenju requires a very large chakra to make the possibility of Mogi to activate it is very small. That's all the story from you, Shinobi. What do you think about Shin Susenju? Share your opinion in the comments below. And if you are curious about which character we will tell their story life next, don't forget to hit subscribe, like and share, and also ring the notification bell so you won't miss the interesting story from us. This is all for now. It's you, Shinobi, signing out. Have a great day.